Moms of Reddit, what is a wild secret of your past that your kids rather not know about?
My mom told my siblings and me on Easter when I was 14 that she used to be a child prostitute for the Yakuza. She told us because her sister was going to tell us because she felt like my mom had stolen her daughter and was using it as a bargaining chip. My cousin came to live with us across the country because her mom was in jail for drug abuse.
Not sure how wild this is, but right before I was born, like 2 or 3 days beforehand, my dad's older cousin had a daughter born severely unhealthy. She wasn't stillborn, but she wasn't going to make it past a few days. So anyway, after I was born, my dad's aunt came into the delivery room and said to my mom, "You two are young, you'll have plenty of time to have another child, but my daughter can't. Let me buy this baby off of you." I only found out about this when I was 15 because my sister told me. Apparently my parents never planned on telling me this. Edit, fucking autocorrect. My mum told me once, while she was tipsy, that my dad was actually her high school teacher and they began a sexual relationship when she was his student at the age of 16. She said they would often have sex with her in school uniform. They managed to keep everything under wraps for years, and they got married when she graduated from college and gave birth to me a few years later.
I'm the dad in this situation, but my wife used to be severely addicted to opiates, which I helped get her out of by moving the family to a new town and letting her spend 2 weeks in bed dealing with withdrawals while I handled every other aspect of the house, including finding work and setting up the kids for school, etc. I just told the kids she was sick and needed to sleep, which wasn't entirely false. It was super emotionally taxing, but I would do it again in a heartbeat because it worked and she's been clean for 2 years.
Growing up, my mother was a titan. She graduated top of her class in her PharmD and chaired several major drug regulation boards. She was always very serious about school, and we were told that BS were absolutely unacceptable because she was a straight A student all through college. We took that to heart up until I was cleaning out the attic a few years ago when I discovered some old grade reports from college. Guess who got a C in sociology and another one in linear algebra? Tough take, Mom. Tough take.
I'm still getting details of this story as I get older, but my mom was apparently a party animal in college who could drink everyone under the table. It got so bad she had a semester where she, apparently, was in danger of flunking out. She was popular with guys, too, and was engaged when she met my dad on a Caribbean vacation she took without telling anyone. When I was growing up, my mom phrased herself as a 4.0 high-achieving student who never fucked up once in her life.
When my wife let it slip around her mom that she was having a lot of lesbian urges, her mom just waved it off and said, "Been there, done that, didn't like it."
Back in the 90s, I flew to Canada and spent the weekend with a guy I'd been talking to in a chat room. I just learned that I was likely conceived on Easter, when my mom wore a crotchless lace onesie and teased my dad all night, and then I was born 9 months later. FML.
Not my mom, thank God, but an old girlfriend's. Her grandma got her mom drunk at the age of 15 and had a guest stranger have sex with her. Not quite wild. More dark, really. And horribly sad.
I grew weed legally. When I did it, my straight-laced father went on a long speech about growing techniques and tips. About 2/3 through, he kinda stopped and stared at me and my brother, and adds the addendum. "So I've heard." ETA through it all, my mom was shooting daggers at him.
My mom used to date a drug lord in Birmingham, but was practically his crack whore. He raped her, she had my brother, and to get away from it all, she joined the military. Dude ended up going to prison at the same time, and was stabbed to death just a few weeks in. My mother didn't tell us or my brother, until he was around 35-ish. Wow, thanks for the silver, kind stranger, my first. I was a flasher when I was a preteen living in Italy. Went through a phase, I guess. I would also prefer they didn't know about all the raunchy shit their future stepdaddy and I do behind closed doors.
I was a drug dealer. Weed and pills. Worked 2 legit jobs along with the game just to afford my 1-bedroom apartment. During Vietnam War era, my mom had a pretty serious boyfriend, and he got drafted, and she dumped him for my dad.
Daughter of a mother with a wild secret, my dad was abusive, an extreme alcoholic, and hit her regularly, so she kicked him in the balls so hard that he couldn't have kids, after me, obviously. He's dead now, drunk driving, he took 4 people with him. My aunt got tipsy and told me everything.
My firstborn daughter I had at a very young age. I was 18, in grade 12, skipping every single day, partying all the time and hanging out with a drug dealer at the time. That's her dad. He and I are not together. I moved on and got married, and he is currently engaged, and he stopped dealing shortly after we found out I was pregnant. We co-parent really well actually, and he is now quite the stand-up father. All our daughter knows is that her mom and dad didn't love each other, so we separated, and now she's lucky to have 2 moms and 2 dads that love her very much. She's now 7. I'm wondering if it'll ever come out later about how her dad and I met. Ha 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 ha. Edit ***, love all the positive feedback. And yes, we all co-parent really well. It took a little bit of time, but that's normal, I think, lol. We just want her to grow up knowing that even though we may not all live together, 100% of the time, that we all talk and communicate and love her the same.
I used to be an escort. If being an escort doesn't make me a member of the PTA, nothing will. Edit, thank you so much for my first gold. My mother always smiled at me. I can't remember seeing her without a smile. When I grew up I discovered she have chronic crippling depression. Edit, corrected my bad English. Thanks for the gold and silver, I wasn't expecting that. Well, I just visited my parents, I talked a lot with her and told her that I'm proud of her, and that she can count on me. I can't talk about her depression directly, but at least I hope that make her feel a little bit better. Despite her depression, she's the strongest person I know.
When my girlfriend, wife now, and I were first together, she was gone all summer, came back to town and we got it on. However, it was also noon. And the windows were open. And she's a screamer. We stopped in the middle because she saw some light dancing around on the ceiling. Looked down and a cop was shining a light in. Luckily he let us off with a warning to close the windows. However, due to her height he did have to ask for her ID to verify that she was old enough. She was 22. My kids probably never need to know that. Edit, to answer all of the questions of why would the cops show up. It was a noise complaint. Our rental was super close to a bunch of apartments, so the open windows and the close wall made for a perfect echo chamber.
How much of my teens I spent high. But now weed's socially acceptable in most cases, that's not even a thing. I'm disappointed. It's almost fun in a way to have something to shock your kids with. My own mom is really vanilla, and is very old school. Bet she's probably hiding the fact she runs a local swingers club or something. Just found out last year that my mom got pregnant in college. The guy split as soon as he found out, and she never saw him again. She decided to have the baby, avoided going home when she was showing, and gave it up for adoption. My grandparents never knew, they died a few years ago, and I found out due to an Ancestry.com, https://ancestry.com, DNA test. My half-brother contacted me and we pieced it together. She was relieved that it all came out in the end. It had been weighing on her all these years. She's in her 70s, I'm 40 now, and my new half-brother is 52 or so. Needless to say, it was a huge surprise. I never in a million years would have guessed at that.
Both my parents were very honest throughout most of my life, but over the summer when I was 17, my mom had mentioned that before I was born that my dad wanted to get an abortion. I had figured out on my own why my dad wanted an abortion was because we didn't make enough money to support another child. But my mother fought for me. So my dad ended up stopped drinking and smoking to be able to financially support me. That I met their dad on World of Warcraft when I was 16, and ran away to be with him 2 days before I turned 18. He is 11 years older than me. They can know the overview, but boy, the details of it are real shady, especially when I am going to have to teach them internet safety and online stranger danger. I am now divorced and their dad has moved away, and we have a positive co-parent relationship, and though he's not very involved, we both just want the best for the kids. Which leads me into the fact I don't want them to know how I feel about the relationship looking back and the manipulation and emotional abuse. I don't want my daughter to know that I wanted to abort her because I was 20 and in college and knew there was no way we could support her, and that I was heavily guilted into it by their dad because of his age, at 31, being his last chance. We used to sell weed by the pound out of Grandma's basement. Dad loves all kinds of drugs, and I have sampled most, just not the heavy ruin your life ones. Truly, I just want to be a stoner at heart.
When I graduated college, my mom casually dropped the fact that she, a tiny little Asian woman, used to deal large quantities of marijuana when she was in high school, and once had to skip a basketball game because she accidentally took a duffel bag full of weed to school instead of her gym bag.
My mom was a crazy native child that started smoking at 10, smoke or choke as my grandma put it, sold single cigarettes in elementary school, once burned down a patch of forest because she was playing with fire with her friends, smoked her brother's weed and drank with her dad, and ran away from home at 19. Now she scolds me and my sis for swearing in front of her face with tears of joy. Edit. Okay, wow, I was not expecting this to get as upvoted as it has been. These were just offhand things I remembered off the top of my head. For those wondering, she did not grow up on the res, but her family did. They moved away for work as far as I remember. She's Chippewa from ND Turtle. Any mean comments about her can be directed elsewhere because I love my mom and my family to bits, and we have all put in a lot of work to have the wonderful relationship that we do now. She's been through a lot, but I'm very proud of who she is today as she reconnects with her family and her culture.
I don't want my kids to know anything about how I was raised. I really don't. Like, I can't watch anything family themed without crying. Most no-kid movies leave me with a lump in my throat so big I could choke on it. And as they get older, it's harder to turn my face far enough for them not to see, and twice as hard to not cry. My ceiling is their floor, and I really just don't want them to have to handle grown-up problems until they are grown-ups. My wild secret is that's why we go for walks as a family rather than the movies. The movies are somewhere my husband takes them for special one-on-one time, so it's still a special thing that they get to do. But I won't make them sit through their mom having a fucking breakdown over Samahana means family, and family means nobody gets left behind line. That my high school boyfriend and I had a son at 16 years old. We went through Catholic Family Services for an open adoption. We both get updates on how he is doing, even though we are not involved anymore. Also, my son is included in my will.
This will get buried, and this story is from my dad. When I was 19 and visiting home from college, my dad and I stayed up getting piss drunk. When I told him about my love for psychedelics, he clapped and said, "I knew it." I asked why, and he stated that, "Your mom was the acid queen, and we learned she was pregnant with you when she was 4 months in. We were tripping for your first couple of months."
I guess that I was a stripper for a while, and worked at a bank the same time. Don't think I would share that, but if I heard them talk down about strippers, I'd probably educate them on what it's really like. I did what I had to do to put food on the table and give them a good life. My immediate family knows, except my stepdad, and my children's dad knows. We sometimes talk about it, but not really. Is this one of those threads where Op is just trying to source wank material for his MILF kink?
I'm married, but before I met my husband a lot of my relationships were with women. I would talk about, but I think they'd be grossed out about the thought of me having any life at all before they existed. I have also struggled with depression since I was a teenager. We have talked a little bit about why I take meds, but I don't think they understand how serious it is. Plus, marijuana has recently become legal in my state, so I am about to check that out.
Most of my life before I met her father, I sold drugs to pay my way through college, and almost married the dude I sold for. That's not even the worst thing.
Oh buddy. I'm late to the party, but here goes. Started doing drugs at 14. Went from trying weed to snorting coke in about 6 months. My drug habit turned addiction gave me the opportunity to try almost every substance imaginable. Except meth. I love uppers, meth would have killed me. While I was hooked on crack, I had sex for money and / or drugs. I stole things constantly for fun and for necessity. I conned people into giving me valuable items / money. Eventually, I quit crack and chilled out a bit, but I was still recklessly promiscuous and doing every non-crack drug I could get my hands on. This continued until I was 28, when I hit rock bottom. My lowest point was the culmination of 2 events which occurred within the same month. I got a DUI and I fucked a horrible guy who, I found out afterwards, was HIV+. We hadn't used protection. There's a happy ending though. I got tested, I have HPV, but nothing worse. And I got clean. In July I'll celebrate 6 years sober with my husband and 2 daughters. Party popper.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this one. And as always, stay safe and good luck.